So I've been toying around with the idea of retirement. I'm turning 62 in about a week and a half. And this is a, $1,000,000 question for me because I'm an artist. I've worked plenty of jobs, like regular corporate jobs and things like that. Artists always have to, make ends meet. And so I've been in and out of corporate America, mainly sales. Spent a lot of years as a sales manager. I was in the furniture industry. I worked for the Bassett Corporation, the Lazy Boy Corporation, Ashley, and lots of different furniture companies. As a 62-year-old, I'm thinking, okay, what's retirement going to look like for me? As artists typically never retire, or at least practically never. Creation is, creating art is something that comes from within, and you can't stop that unless you're just physically unable, which may happen to me someday. Both of my parents, I inherited glaucoma from both of my parents. They're no longer living. My mother passed away at 94, and she lost her sight at one point. She really couldn't see anymore. So that's something that could happen to me. You're going to see me wearing sunglasses a lot, mainly because my eyes just look red and glassy and things like that. I decided back in January of this year, 2025, that I was going to get a full-time job. And it wasn't that I needed the money. It wasn't like that. I wanted to stay active. So I thought about it, and I thought, I could work at a garden center. That'd be kind of fun, and it would keep me active. It doesn't sound like it would be all that hard, and I could interact with people. I've been, I haven't been working for the last few years. When I say I haven't been working, I've been working as an artist. I just haven't been working in corporate America. I may never go back to corporate America. I just don't care for it. I like my life as an artist. So, but anyway, I decided to apply for a job at Lowe's. It was spring was just about to hit, and they were hiring for outdoor garden. It was a sales position, which I'm good at selling, and I thought, I'd be just working with people, helping them load bags of mulch here and there, or answering questions about plants or what have you. So I applied for the job on Indeed, and I don't know, maybe like first part of January, I got a call from Lowe's to set up an interview, and so I went in for the interview, and the interview went very well. I've done many interviews in my life, and so I went in for the interview. I got the job and for the outdoor garden sales. It was essentially minimum wage. It wasn't minimum wage, but it might as well be. I think the pay was $15 an hour. I was excited, not about the $15 an hour, but I was excited about getting in shape. And one of the main reasons I wanted to get a job like that was to stay in shape. As a 62-year-old, you got to keep moving. I'm not necessarily out of shape. I'm not overweight or anything like that. But anyway, that was one of the reasons I wanted the job. So I got the job. I was told at the interview that I got the job, so that was good. It took probably 3 weeks for them to start me in a training program at Lowe's, and the whole thing drug out. It just seemed like forever. I think from the time I got the call for the interview until the time I was actually outside in the garden center at Lowe's for my first day working, I think that was a good 2 months time frame, maybe more. I'm trying to be generous here. But from the time I got the call to the time I actually went out on the floor was at least 2 months, if not longer, which to me just seems crazy. I ran my own company for many years, and that's crazy. But anyway, so I started their training program, which was in the computer center at the store in the back. The HR manager got me going, and I got a walkthrough of the store with one of the higher level managers there, and that was all fine. But the training program was absolutely crazy. Like, I consider myself an educated man. I graduated from high school. I went to junior college. I graduated from junior college. I went to a university. I graduated from the university. I have decades of experience as a sales manager with 10 salespeople working under me. I managed all those people. I did that for many different companies for many years. So I consider myself a well-educated person with lots of business experience. And this training program at Lowe's was just, I don't even know how to describe it. Like rocket science almost. Like, I don't know how people that don't have an education or much of one could get through this training program. It was so long. I would say it took me 10 days sitting down at that computer working through this training program. Just absolutely in-depth, lots of typing, lots of tests that you have to pass, lots of tests. Like, I don't even know how many tests, 100? And you had to pass before you could go to the next level. And I didn't see the training program to be equivalent with a part-time, a minimum wage entry-level job. Like it didn't match, I've been through a lot of advanced training programs for large corporations as a sales manager, but I was making $75,000 a year and had a lot of responsibility. This was a low-level responsibility job with a training program that I somewhat struggled to get through. Not really, but it just was time-consuming, and it required an intense amount of thought and work to get through it. So I got through the training program at Lowe's, completely exhausted from it, after 10 full days of working on this computer. The training program itself did not have a lot to do with the actual job, or I should say, I didn't feel like I knew a whole lot about the hands-on part of the job after the training program. It was very, very detailed. Like, they give everybody a phone, which is essentially your computer to all the software, and there's so much software there that you have to understand and learn, and this on the job would take, I would say you would have to be on the job for a month or 3 to understand all the ins and outs of all this software and to really know what you're doing. I worked for Home Depot some years ago when I was younger, in my 30s. I was a certified forklift operator at Home Depot years ago, and I was a department manager over home decor, paint department, and flooring. So I was on the fast track to become an assistant store manager, which is a great position there. But my point is, I have a lot of experience in the big box stores as well. And I finished my training. I had my first day on the floor. I worked with my immediate supervisor, who I liked. I liked everybody there, really. On the job training, I guess you would call that. And you know, I liked this guy, although I did not get much training. I just kind of followed him around on the, he was driving the forklift and I had to be the spotter. Lowe's or the safety, I get it, they require a spotter. If you're going to use the forklift, you have to have a spotter. So essentially my first couple, 2 or 3 days there was following this guy around as a spotter with these flags, you know. Very typical of minimum wage work, I would say. But one thing I noticed about the job is there was only one other worker there, and he was the night shift worker. And he wouldn't come in until I was leaving. So I barely even saw that guy. But there were no other workers there. It was just the manager and me. I thought that was really strange. Because, you know, they're open from, you know, whatever, 5 a.m., 6 a.m. to 9 o'clock at night. So they had a deficiency of workers there. About 3 days into this job, my immediate boss gets pulled out and taken to another store in another state. So I'm essentially left completely alone. I don't know if you've ever been into a Lowe's garden department, but it's massive. I mean, it's like 3 giant furniture stores, just this one department. So I was getting nervous. I was a brand new employee, brand new on the floor, and I was getting nervous about starting work there. So he was gone for, I would say, I didn't see him for 11 days. He was gone. And so here I am, I'm a brand new employee being stuck out into this massive garden center all by myself. It's fine, you know, I'll do my best, as I always do, but I'm out here now in charge of this giant garden center at Lowe's, and it didn't go well. So Lowe's is a massive company, and their stores are very busy. They have, you know, thousands and thousands of customers. We have I don't know how many Lowe's in our region, our market, I guess you would say, but I would say at least 6 Lowe's just in our market. And when I would visit the other stores, I wanted to kind of see, you know, how many workers there were in the garden center. And there were, at all the other stores, there were a minimum of 3 workers in the garden center, red vests they call them. I would say more like 4, 5, 6, I counted 6 workers at the Lowe's that was actually closer to me. I would walk in just to count how many people were working in there, and the Lowe's that was closest to me, where I shop, there was 6 red vests in this Lowe's, and I was by myself. In springtime, like by then it was springtime. You know, the spring things were coming, and truckloads of things were coming. Mulch, flowers, all of that stuff, and people were coming in in droves to buy this stuff. It was ball busting work. Like, it was crazy busy, and I'm no stranger to labor. Okay, I was a concrete laborer when I was going through college to pay for my school, and that's one of the hardest labor jobs that you can have. So I don't have a problem with hard labor. That was one of the reasons I wanted to work there, but not by myself. So now keep in mind, I'm 62 years old, which is not an excuse, but I began really just working like crazy. And the cashiers, there were 2 cashiers up front, but they don't help with the labor. But every 5 minutes they're calling my name, David to the front, David to the front, David to the front. And customer needs help with mulch, customer needs help with soil. I mean, those bags of topsoil, they're 50 pounds when they're wet, 60 maybe. And then people would come in and get, 20 of them, 30 of them, 40 of them. The trucks would pull up. I was loading hundreds of pounds of mulch. Really, there were days when I would load 2,000-3,000 pounds of mulch in a day by myself. It was wearing me out. Like I was physically unable to keep up. If I was 25, I wouldn't have been able to keep up, because I was by myself. I was doing the job of at least 3 people every day in this garden center. And I know that because I was looking at the other Lowe's, seeing 3 to 6 red vest workers in there. This is really not working out. So I go to my higher level manager, because my boss was in another state doing inventory. He was gone. I didn't see him for 11 days. And I brought the higher boss out, and I explained to him that this was too much work for one person. And he said, "Oh, I'll bring you 2 more guys out here tomorrow. They'll be out here." I said, "Are they going to be here to work, or are they just going to shuffle things on the shelf and then leave after an hour?" "Oh, no, they're going to work. They're going to work." Okay. So he brings me 2 younger guys out there to work the next day, but they came at like 7 in the morning, and they were there until 8 or maybe 9. Well, the customers don't come till 9. From 9 to 2 is the busy time frame at Lowe's, or any retail store like that. So really they were just shuffling products and restocking and things like that, which is fine, but it wasn't helping me at all. So I ended up bringing this to their attention 3 separate times, and it went nowhere. Okay. Now just keep in mind, when I had my company, I had 4 retail stores, and I was essentially a district manager of my own company. And I had my own employees, and I had employees for every store, and I was over 4 stores. So, running a department, I got it. I understand how that works, and it was impossible to run the Lowe's Garden Center by myself. Totally impossible. So anyway, I got fed up. I worked at Lowe's for a total of 4 weeks. A week and a half of training and 2.5 weeks of on-the-job labor. And the straw that broke the camel's back for me was one of the higher level managers pulled me out of the garden department into the alley and the parking lot area, where when the semis come, the forklift takes all the product off and puts it out in the parking lot. And so I had to be the flag man. So I was out there for, I would say, a couple of hours. We unloaded 2 semi trucks of mulch. So when I finished that, I went back inside to my department, and I went up front to the cashier. There was a line of 10 customers out there, and that's where I would go to see if anybody needed help. And this customer, this man about my age, says to the woman in front of him, loudly, so that I could hear, I was close. He said, "Ma'am, I will help you into your car with your mulch, because nobody in here seems to want to help the customers." That's what he said as he was looking at me. Mind you, I just unloaded 2 semi trucks of mulch, and they had mulch, and I stepped up to where they were standing, which was only like 2 or 3 steps away. And I said, "Ma'am, I will be more than happy to help you get your mulch into the back of your truck. And sir, when I'm done with that, I will help you get your mulch into your truck as well." I said, "I just got done unloading 2 semis worth of mulch, and I came right in here to see if anybody needed help." And so I followed the lady out. I pushed the cart for the lady out to her car and helped her load her mulch into her truck. And then I came back and helped that gentleman load his mulch into his truck. And then when I was done with that, essentially this customer yelled at me, basically. And when I was done with that, I had enough. I could see that nothing was going to change. I could see that nothing was going to improve at any point. And so I went inside, I took my red vest off, and I went into the HR manager's office. Incidentally, the HR manager looked to be about 23 years old, maybe. Maybe she was older, I don't know. But I folded up. I've never done this, okay? I've always given 2 weeks notice and all that. But I wasn't going to sit there and do that for 2 more weeks, you know? I didn't really need the money. I didn't need the money. And so I folded up my red vest, put it on her desk, and looked her in the eye and said, I'm done. I'm out. I've explained to you, I've explained to the managers in the store that I can't run a 20,000 square foot garden center by myself when the other Lowe's have 3 to 6 people working in there in the garden center, and I'm not going to do this anymore, and I'm leaving. I quit. So, you know, here's your vest. And I clocked out and I left. And that was my experience in my retirement job at Lowe's. I don't know if other stores are different, but the store that I worked at, no bueno. That is my Lowe's story for my retirement job, if you will. And that is my story.